Hello, good day everyone. This is Joe Brand. So once again, welcome to the Free Mind. Welcome to my channel. So my channel discusses a lot of learning videos for all my students and for all my non-students who wishes also to learn something out of this very quick discussion. This is just a 30-minute learning video. So I really do hope that you liked it and you are able to get lessons out of this video. Okay, so to those who are new to my channel, I am Jo Bren. I am a teacher by profession and a licensed psychometrician, and I recently graduated my master's degree in guidance and counseling. Okay, so for today's vlog is I'll be discussing to you another lesson. This is our lesson number 7 in the subject of special education. This is just an introduction of special education. So I really hope that you will get something out of this very quick discussion. So our topic for today will be discussing about the various definition of emotional and behavioral disorders. So again, disclaimer, I am not a psychologist. I am a licensed psychometrician, a BS psychology graduate, no? And planning to take the board exam for guidance and counseling so that I'll be a licensed guidance counselor someday. So please help me pray for that. Okay, so there are various definitions of emotional and behavioral disorders. When you talk about emotion, that is the way we handle ourselves, the things that we are feeling, and ordered behavior is a social construct. It is constructed by the people. It is constructed by us. Number 2 definition is different theories of emotional disturbance use concept and terminology that do not present a clear meaning of the condition. That's why it's very hard to tell what is a specific condition of the person. Number 3 definition is measuring and interpreting disordered behavior across time and setting is a difficult, exact, and costly endeavor. So it's really hard to measure. It's really hard to interpret disordered behavior. Emotional and behavioral disorder is number 4. It is cultural influence. Expectations and norms across ethnic and cultural groups are often quite different. So we are living in a different society. We have our own cultural, our norms, our traditions, our expectations. So we cannot tell that the person is undergoing or this kind of emotional and behavioral disorder without considering the cultural influences, the society that he is in, and the norms and the traditions and the standards that they are putting into themselves. So this was very difficult to tell that a person is undergoing this kind of disordered behavior. Number 5 definition, according to the book, number 5 definition is frequency and intensity of disordered behavior is difficult to measure and control in view of the fact that children behave inappropriately at times. Yes, frequency and intensity of disordered behavior as well is also difficult to measure and control. So that is a fact. So number 6 definition of emotional and behavioral disorder is disordered behavior sometimes occurs in conjunction with other disabilities such as we have mental retardation and learning disability. I already explained that matter to you in my previous discussion. Again, there are 3 factors considered in determining if a child is emotionally disturbed. We have 3 factors like the intensity, the pattern, and the duration of behavior. When you talk about intensity, it refers to the severity of the child's problem. So intensity, the intensity or the severity of the child's problem. So what is the intensity of the child's problem? Number 2 factor is the pattern, means the time when the problem occurs. So you also need to check the time, the pattern when the problem occurs. So if it is very consistent, so there is a possibility that the condition, it is easy to tell if the pattern is also considered. Pattern means the time when the problem occurs. Number 3 factor is the duration. What is duration? Duration refers to the length of time the child's problem has been present. So this implies the continuous observation has to be made. So when you talk about determining a child, if a child is emotionally disturbed, is we also need to consider the intensity, the pattern, and the duration. When you talk about the duration, it is the length of time the child is experiencing that kind of problem. So we need to do a lot of observations has to be made in order for us to know if the child is emotionally disturbed or not. So we really need to consider the consistency of the problem. Okay, so that is very important. That is very important if you're trying to predict or to tell if a child is emotionally disturbed. Again, we have the intensity, the pattern, and the duration. The duration of behavior. So there is this one thing. The universal and most influential definition of emotional disturbance is carried on by a law. There is a law, the IDEA, the Individuals with Disability Education Act, IDEA 1997, and the Council for Children with Behavioral Disorders, or CCBD 1989. So what is IDEA? This law, this is a public law on special education in America. It defines serious emotional disturbance as a condition exhibiting one or more of the following characteristics over a long period of time. So when you talk about over a long period of time, there is a strong observational method has to be made to be considered as serious, or that the child is experiencing emotional disturbance. The long period of time, the severity, which adversely affect educational performance. Okay, so educational performance of the child. So that is how they defined emotional disturbance. So it is there for a long period of time, and it is affecting the student, the performance of the student. It is affecting the emotional aspect of the student. So that is considered as emotional disturbance. So the idea, the law define emotional disturbance as a condition exhibiting one or more characteristic, while the CCBD, or the Council for Children with Behavioral Disorders, defines emotional and behavioral disorder is a disability. It is a disability characterized by behavioral or emotional responses. So in short, there are a lot of classification when you talk about So there are classifications of emotional and behavioral disorders. So we have the Diagnostic and Statistic Manual for Mental Disorders 4. So the DSM-4, so we will just talk about the DSM-4. The DSM-4 is an elaborate clinical classification consisting of 230 separate diagnostic categories or labels to identify the various types of disordered behavior as observed by psychiatrists, psychologists, mental health practitioners, and other clinicians in their regular practice. So we also have the DSM-4. So this is a clinical classification system consisting of 230 diagnostic categories to identify the various types of disordered behavior, because it is not easy to measure, to interpret. That's why they have this diagnostic and statistical manual for mental disorder to help us classify things, especially for disordered behavior. Okay, we also have this. Okay, the next classification is the key statistical classification. So this is the second classification of emotional and behavioral disorders. So we have the key statistical classification. The statistical analysis of data revealed 4 clusters of traits and behaviors among children with emotional and behavioral disorders. So they have the 4 cluster of traits. Number 1, we have the conduct disorder. So when you talk about conduct disorder, this is when a child is characterized by disobedience, being disruptive, getting into fights, being bossy, and temper tantrums. So there is a conduct disorder according to the key statistical classification. Number 2 is the anxiety withdrawal, sometimes called as anxiety disorder, is manifested by social withdrawal, anxiety, depression, feelings of inferiority, guilty, shyness, and unhappiness. So these are the two, the conduct disorder and the anxiety withdrawal. Anxiety withdrawal is when the child is having social withdrawal, anxiety, depression, feelings of inferiority, and guilty, shyness, unhappiness. Next is immaturity. So immaturity shows in short attention span, meaning extreme passivity, extreme negativity, daydreaming, preference for younger playmates, and clumsiness. So number 4, and the last cluster for identifying the emotional and behavioral disorder of a child is socialized aggression. Socialized aggression, it means to do things that is not common, that others are doing it, so they feel so proud about themselves even if they are hurting the feelings of others. So that is an example of socialized aggression. Number 3 is a direct observation and measurement. So when you talk about direct observation, it means that you are observing the child physically. So we have the frequency. How do you observe a child? Through direct observation is you have to check the frequency. It indicates the rate at which the behavior occur and how often a particular behavior is performed. That is frequency. So how many times the child is performing that one? That is frequency. Number 2, how do we do direct observation is duration. Duration is a measure of the length of amount of time a child exhibits the disorder behavior. So we have the frequency, how many times the child is doing that, the duration, the length of time that the child exhibits the disordered behavior. Next is the topography. So meaning we can also do topography in direct observation. It refers to the physical shape or form of behavior. Refers to the physical shape or form of behavior. Next is the magnitude. We can also do direct observation through magnitude. Magnitude refers to the intensity of the displayed behavior. How strong is the intensity of the displayed behavior? So the last control refers to the inability to select an appropriate response to a stimulus. So meaning when you talk about, we can also do direct observation through stimulus control. So a child who is experiencing emotional or behavioral disorder is they also have the inability to select the right thing to do, or to really analyze things if that is good for them or not. That is stimulus control. We can also do direct observation and measurement. So the four classification of emotional and behavioral disorder is the degree of severity. So when you talk about degree of severity, it is the emotional and behavioral disorders of a child, and it can be mild and severe. So emotional and behavioral disorders can be mild and severe. So that is the degree of severity. So the children who respond positively to therapy and intervention have a mild level of degree. So if a child is undergoing therapy or undergoing intervention, so the emotional and behavioral disorder of the child can fall into a mild level. They can attend regular classes, they can work successfully with a regular and special education teacher and the guidance counselor. So those who have severe emotional and behavioral disorders require intense treatment and intervention. That's why we need to be observant, to do direct observation, no? If the child is experiencing emotional and behavioral disorders, to really check the degree of severity. Okay, so that we can conduct some therapy or early intervention so that the child will not go into the severe emotional and behavioral disorders. Causes of emotional and behavioral disorders. We have the biological and the environment. When you talk about biological, it comes from the genes, it is genetic, it is innate. When you talk about environment, is the people surrounding us, your family, your friends, your loved ones. So they are also part of the causes of the emotional and behavioral aspect. So let's talk about the behavioral factor. So authorities believe that all children are born with biologically determined temperament. So, for example, me, I also have my own tantrums. I also have my own mood swings, but I can control that. So, we are born with biologically determined temperament. So, the inborn temperament may not directly cause a behavior problem to occur, but may predispose the child to behavior disturbances. So, meaning, we have biological determined temperament, but for other people they can control that, but for other people, no, for other children, it can lead to a more behavior disturbances. So that is our biological factors. While the environmental factors, our home, our family influences, so the relationship that we had with our parents during the early years is critical to the way we learn to behave. So that's why if you are into a good family environment, no, if you're into a loving, a caring family environment, so that would also influence our emotions and how we behave, on how we deal with our lives with other people. So attention and reinforcement of positive behavior, as well as appropriate discipline for negative behavior in atmosphere of love and caring, shape desirable patterns of behavior. So if you're having a positive behavior and you're also doing a lot of good things, so possibly it can also shape our emotions and behavioral aspect. So that's why in my case, I am very talkative, no. I love dealing with people. So possibly biologically, because I am a daddy's girl, so my dad he has a very good social interaction, so possibly I also get that. And our family, we love to hang out together, to laugh, and to make jokes to one another. So and the environment also plays a vital role to myself and how I am dealing now with my own social life, with my own self. So there are a lot of environmental factors that we are living in. The first is the home and family influences, correct? We have the home and family influences. Our family is our first teacher. Our home influences, they are our first teacher. School experiences. There are experiences in school where children spend a large part of the day that they can precipitate the occurrence of behavior problems. So when we go to school, we learn a lot of things. When we deal with our classmates, we learn a lot of things. When we talk to a lot of people, we learn a lot of things. So school, we spent a lot of our time, like 8 hours or 4 hours in a day. We go to school, we spend our time with them. So possibly that will also shape our emotional and behavioral responses. So when a child is not ready to handle these events, he or she may resort to externalizing or internalizing things. So school experiences can contribute to the development of emotional and behavioral disturbances. So it's very common, no, that we are experiencing jokes inside the school. So we're also experiencing a lot of emotions when we are to school. So that is part of our emotional and behavioral aspect. So characteristics of children and youth with emotional and behavioral disorders. So we also have characteristics. So I'll be talking about the 6 characteristics of children and youth with emotional and behavioral disorders. Number 1 is the social skills and interpersonal relationship. So studies confirm that observation that students with emotional and behavioral disorders often experience great difficulty in developing and maintaining interpersonal relationship as early as during early childhood. So in short, your social skills and how you deal with others is also a strong indicator if the children and youth are experiencing emotional and behavioral disorders, the difficulty in developing and maintaining interpersonal relationship. Okay, number 2 characteristic of children and youth with emotional and behavioral disorders, the antisocial behavior. So these children manifest consistent and frequent disordered patterns of behavior that violate the rules or regulations at home, the laws of the community and the country. So they are consistently violating the rules and regulations at home. They don't want to follow rules. Antisocial behavior patterns form the foundation for the clinical diagnosis of conduct disorder, which are aggressive forms of behavior towards people and animals, destruction of property, and serious violation of rules. So, antisocial behaviors are also considered as conduct disorder because they are violating rules. They also do the destruction of property. They don't follow the laws of the community and the country. So, they are considered antisocial behavior. They go against the rules. So number 3 is the oppositional defiant disorder, or the ODD. So students or individuals with oppositional defiant disorder consistently go against, oppose, defy, and show the hostility towards authority figures. So again, the oppositional defiant disorder is they are consistently go against the rules. They don't follow it. They always oppose and show hostility, aggression towards authority figures. So they are somewhat related to antisocial behavior or conduct disorder. Number 4 characteristic is externalizing and internalizing behavioral disorder. So some children with emotional and behavioral disorders display externalizing behavior disorders that violate the rules and norms of society and annoy and disturb other people. So meaning when you talk about externalizing behavioral disorder, they violate the rules, the norms, they annoy other people. So these are the common externalizing behavioral disorders. So for example, making an unnecessary noise, constant talking to self and others, disobedience, persistent lying. Okay, so how about, on the other hand, too little social interaction of children with internalizing behavioral disorders create a serious impediment to their development. So in short, if you have a very low social interaction, you may also experience internalizing behavioral disorders, and it can also hamper the children's development. When you talk about social skills, they manifest withdrawn behavior, lack of social skills, tend to be fearful of things and events without reason. That's why we have the DSM-4, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for, to guide us to classify things if that is any part of emotional and behavioral disorder. So they also have a series of symptoms now before you will consider us having a problem with emotional and behavioral disorders. So number 5 is the aggressive and violent behavior. So aggression refers to acts that are abusive, that severely interfere with activities of the other people or objects and events in the environment. We talk about aggression. You cannot control yourself. You are very abusive. It affects your relationship with yourself and with other people. So we have examples of the milder forms of aggression. These are teasing, cloning around, bullying. Mild aggression, bullying. Severe aggression includes threat of physical harm, physical attack, destruction of property, and cruelty. Okay, so that's why bullying is, the school is trying to avoid that bullying, because for other students, they cannot tolerate that, and it can really affect the mental state of the students. The last characteristic of emotional and behavioral disorder is considered as delinquency. So the word delinquency is a legal term that refers to the criminal offense committed by an adolescent. Okay, so delinquency is a behavioral disorder. So studies show that a pattern of antisocial behavior early in child's life is a strong predictor of delinquency in adolescents. So this characteristic, they are somewhat related to one another. So if you're experiencing antisocial behavior during your early childhood, it can be a strong predictor of delinquency in adolescents. So the adolescent commit more serious offenses and continue a pattern of antisocial behavior until adulthood. So we need to correct that as early as early childhood. So if we observe a lot of behavioral problems, no, we need to correct that, because we are trying to do intervention, not to do the extreme, no, not to affect the behavioral problem of the child until adulthood. So the behavioral patterns of younger children are usually unstable due to the maturation process itself. And it is also a fact that the behavioral patterns of our younger children is not consistent. It is unstable because they are still undergoing a lot of things like the maturation process. They are still exploring. They are still taking things to themselves. So that's why there is a very unstable emotions, very unstable behavioral this problem. So it's natural that we are having a lot of emotion disturbances and behavioral disturbances. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you are learning from all the videos that I've posted. This is our lesson number 7. So I'll get back to you later and I'll discuss about the continued discussion of this topic. So I hope you are learning. I hope you get something out of this very quick discussion. Thank you so much and God bless you.